kind of give some background on how you initially got involved with performing and being involved with the Muppets?
I was an obsessive fan of the Muppets from the time I can really remember in my whole life. I was born, I grew up throughout the 1960s, and Rolf the dog was already a character on this show called The Jimmy Dean Show. And it was black and white television and all that. And as a little kid, I remember, asking my parents if I could stay up late to watch Rolf on The Jimmy Dean Show. So I was already fascinated by the Muppets, even in those early years of Jim Henson's work. And then Sesame Street came around in about 1968, and I was about 10 or 11 years old. And that was it. I mean, I thought, wow, so I wasn't thinking about a lifetime career, but I really wanted to do something like what these guys were doing with these puppets. So I started trying to build my own puppets, and they were pretty terrible. And from what I could find, there was no internet. It's hard to imagine these days not having a resource like the internet.
Right.
So if you're, this kid outside of Atlanta, how are you going to figure out how to build puppets? You have to just start watching them on TV and trying to just straight figure it out. So I wrote a letter to Jim Henson, who was the creator of the Muppets, at that point. And about 6 months later, he wrote back. So this 10-year-old kid got this letter from Jim Henson, which was really something to me. I mean, it would be something to anybody, but at that point in time, check my mailbox one day, there's a letter from Jim Henson. And he basically just encouraged me to keep doing it. Keep trying to build your puppets, keep doing the things you're doing. So fast forward through, years of being the nerdy puppet guy in high school, I was able to meet Jim when I was 18, and he hired me. So I started with Jim when I was 19, but I was very young, and I had played with puppets and done shows around town all those years. One little tiny television thing, local in Atlanta. But this was back in the days when there were only like 4 television channels. The 3 major networks, PBS, and then this guy in Atlanta started, do anybody remember the UHF antennas? If you're old enough to remember, there's like this little round thing you had to put on top of your TV to pick up the signal. Scratchy, terrible, you had to tune it in. It was awesome.
That was old school right there.
It really was. We were a UHF channel that broadcast out of an office building, so we had an 8-foot ceiling. And I would lie on my back and do this puppet for 2.5 hours a day, taking telephone calls. Wow. It was a call-in show with a puppet character. And just had a blast. Had so much fun. One of my favorite things I ever did. And that led into meeting Carol Spinney, who was the puppeteer for Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch. And he kind of recruited me into Jim's company.